What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today I'm doing a Spellbook deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because we finally got Spellbook of Judgment back at 1. Let's go! I'm so excited to do this one for you guys because I've been waiting on Spellbook of Judgment to come back to 1 for a long time, and that card makes this deck absolutely insane. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name skipped from every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. This card is a great 3-out for the deck, and it's actually the Searcher, because when it's normal summoned or flip face up, you can add a Spellbook spell card from your deck to your hand, like Spellbook of Judgment, which is super awesome. We then play 3 copies of Jowgen the Spiritualist. Jowgen the Spiritualist is a really good card in the deck because it has the ability that you can discard a random card from your hand to the graveyard to destroy all special summon monsters on the field. And neither player can special summon monsters, which is a crazy powerful effect that this card can basically lock down both players from special summoning. But the really awesome thing about this card is that it's a spellcaster, which is really good. I then play 3 copies of Ecclesia. Ecclesia is really insane in the deck because the Dogmatica package in this build is just too good because they're all spellcasters. And this card also has the ability it cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster special summon from the extract, and it also has the ability that if a monster special summon from the extract is on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is normal or special summon, you can activate the effect to add a Dogmatica card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of Ecclesia. Also, you can't special summon monsters from the extract for the rest of the turn, which is not that big of a deal because you can search out cards like your Fleur-de-Lis, or even search out your copies of Dogmatica Punishment. I then play a single copy of Fleur-de-Lis. I feel like 1 Fleur-de-Lis is totally fine in this deck. I don't feel like you need any more than a single copy of this card. It's easily searchable, and it's a great boss monster to summon beside your copy of your Ecclesia, because it is a walking negate. I then play a single copy of Maximus. Maximus is just really good in the deck overall as a 1-up, because this card has the ability that you can banish a Fusion, Synchro, Exi, or Link monster from your graveyard to special summon this card from your hand, and it can also get cards out of the opponent's extra deck, because during your main phase, you can activate this effect to send 2 monsters with different names from your extra deck to the graveyard, and also your opponent sends 2 monsters from their extra deck to the graveyard, which is an insanely powerful effect to get rid of 2 cards out of their extra deck. I then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom to round out the monsters. Ash Blossom is just a really good hand trap overall to stop the opponent from touching the deck. This card is the best hand trap currently in Yu-Gi-Oh! And a definite 3-of in this deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is a really good card to stop the opponent from hand trapping us while we're going in for all of our plays. We then play a single copy of Spellbook of Judgment. I am so glad this card is back at 1. This card is absolutely insane. This card has literally been at 0 since Dragon Ruler format, and I am so excited to have this card back because it has the ability that during the end phase of the turn this card was activated, you can add Spellbook spell cards from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card, up to the number of spell cards activated after this card's resolution. Then you can special summon from your deck 1 spellcaster type monster whose level is less than or equal to the total number of cards added to your hand by this effect. This card can easily be a +5 with this card. This card is so good and just such a powerful card overall in this deck, and it's really searchable off your copy of Spellbook Magician or even off your copy of Spellbook of Secrets, which is absolutely insane. And then play a single copy of Spellbook of Wisdom. Spellbook of Wisdom is just a really good 1-of in the deck. It has the ability you can target a spellcaster type monster and either make it immune to spell cards or trap cards for the rest of the turn, which can be really good to stop the opponent in their tracks if they're using a spell or trap card against one of our spellcasters. And then play a single copy of Spellbook of Eternity. Spellbook of Eternity is really neat in the deck because it lets you target one of your banished Spellbook spell cards except a Spellbook of Eternity and add that target back to your hand, which can get back your copy of Spellbook of Judgment. And then play 2 copies of Spellbook of Power. This card is really good in the deck because it boosts up one of our spellcaster type monsters by 1,000 attack points. Also, until the end of this turn, each time it destroys an opponent's monster at battle, you can add a Spellbook spell card from your deck to your hand, which is a really good effect. And then play 2 copies of Spellbook of the Master. Spellbook of the Master is a really awesome card in the deck because it has the ability, if you control a spellcaster type monster, you can reveal one other Spellbook card in your hand and then target a Spellbook normal spell in your graveyard except another copy of this card, and this card's effect becomes that target's effect that's in the grave, which is a really good combo piece to combo with Spellbook of Power because you can use them together to give one of your spellcaster type monsters a 2,000 attack point boost and get you a double search every time you destroy an opponent's monster by battle, because your Spellbook of Power will give you the search and the boost, and then this just becomes a second copy of Power, which is really cool. I then play 2 copies of Spellbook of Fate. Spellbook of Fate is absolutely insane in the deck because it has the ability, if you control a spellcaster type monster, you can banish up to 3 Spellbook spell cards from your graveyard and then apply effects depending on the number of spell cards you banish for this card's effect. If you just banish 1, you return a set spell or trap card on the field back to the hand. If you banish 2, you change 1 monster on the field to face down defense position or face up attack position, or if you banish 3, you non-targeting banish 1 card that your opponent controls. The non-targeting banish is the best effect on this card that we're going to be using all the time with this particular card, and it's just so powerful in this deck. I then play 3 copies of Spellbook of Secret. This card is a really insane card in the deck that you always want to play as a 3-up because this card adds a Spellbook card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. So basically it can turn into a copy of Judgment, Fate, Power, Master, like any of those cards that you need, this card can search from the deck. I then play 3 copies of Spellbook of Knowledge. Spellbook of Knowledge is the draw power of the deck because it has the ability to send to the graveyard either 1 spellcaster type monster you control or 1 other spellbook card from your hand or face from your field to the graveyard to be able to draw 2 cards, which is a pretty good effect to be able to get one of those cards in the graveyard to be able to just get 2 more extenders for the deck, or dig for your copy of Judgment. I then play 3 copies of Nadir. Nadir is just so good in the deck. I'm so glad that this card came back to 3. Like, it's just really good overall in the deck because it lets you send a monster from your extract to the graveyard to add a Dogmatica monster or a Fallen Volbaz from your deck or graveyard back to your hand that has attack less than or equal to the sent monster to the graveyard. And also for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon monsters from the extract, which is again not that big of a deal for this deck because we're not special summoning from the extract all the time anyways, but this card is just so good in the deck to be able to search out your copy of Ecclesia. I then play 3 copies of my personal tech that we're actually going to play Guess That Card with. So I'm going to lay these 3 cards face down and you guys are going to comment down below what you guys think this particular tech card is, and I'm going to reveal it in 3, 2, 1, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys, and hit that bell in there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely comment down below what you guys think this tech card is. So this particular tech card in this deck is going to be a field spell, and it is not Mystic Mind, don't worry. It is 3 copies of Secret Village of the Spellcaster. This card, copied with your Jowgen in the deck, can lock your opponent down from special summoning and can lock down your opponent from using any spell cards. Because this card has the ability, if the only person that controls a spellcaster is you, your opponent cannot activate spell cards, but if you don't control a spellcaster, you cannot activate spell cards. This card is really insane because we're always going to control a spellcaster once we get our first one on the field, and it just is a really powerful card overall to throw on the field to stop the opponent from using any spell cards in this deck. So that's it for these spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing a few traps in the deck. We're going to be playing a single copy of Shadow Schism. Shadow Schism is in the deck because you can search this card with your Apocalypse, which is really good to be able to use with this card, and it will put a Shadow in the graveyard off of cards like your Ecclesia, Nadir, and even Dogmatica Punishment. Will get your copy of Apocalypse into the graveyard to be able to search out your copy of Schism, and then you'll already have a Shadow in the graveyard to fusion summon into other really powerful Shadow monsters like Winda or Construct in the extract. But this card has the ability that during the main phase, you can fusion summon a Shadow fusion monster from your extract by banishing the fusion materials listed on it from your field or graveyard, but it cannot attack directly. Then you can send to the graveyard a monster that your opponent controls with the same attribute as the fusion summon monster, which is a pretty good effect. And then play 3 copies of Dogmatica Punishment. Dogmatica Punishment is really good because you can get a double pop out of this card because it has the ability to target a face-up monster that your opponent controls, send a monster from your extra deck with equal or higher attack to that monster to the graveyard, and if you do, destroy that monster. But if you send your copy of Elder Entity Nist with 2,500 attack points to the graveyard, you can pop an additional card on the field, which is really good. The only downside of this card is until the end of your next turn, after this card resolves, it locks you out of special summoning from the extra deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Crowley. Crowley is just a really good one-of in the deck that works really well with our Spellbook spell cards, because this card has the ability, if this card is link summoned, you're going to be able to 3 Spellbook spell cards with different names from your deck, and your opponent randomly picks one and adds it to your hand, which is really insane because it can search out your copy of Judgment, but you shuffle the rest back into the deck, which is, again, not that big of a deal because this card is just too powerful in the deck to be able to summon on the field and search out copies of your Spellbook of Secret, Spellbook of Judgment, and even like a Spellbook of Power that you might reveal with this card. I then play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code is just really easy to summon this deck to be able to pop multiple cards on the field and help you go in for game. You can play Boral Sword if you want to for a budget option, but this card is just too good in this deck to be able to pop cards on the field because we're playing so many different attributes. I then play a single copy of Selene. Selene helps us step into our copy of Access Code extremely easily, and it's just an overall fantastic link monster in any spellcaster deck. 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn because it spins cards, 1 copy of Phoenix because it pops spells and traps, 1 copy of the Light Charmer because we do play light monsters in this deck, like your copy of Ecclesia, and this card can get cards out of your opponent's graveyard and then help you step into your copy of Selene. And then Access Code, which is my alternative to your copy of Needle Fiber or Hulk being at 0. And then play a single copy of IP Masquerena. IP Masquerena is how we make Unicorn during the opponent's turn to spin a card during the opponent's turn, which is really insane. I then play a single copy of Wind Pegasus. Wind Pegasus is really good in the deck to be able to use with Dogmatica Punishment, because this card has the ability that when it's in the graveyard, you can banish it to target 1 card your opponent controls and shuffle it back into the deck. We're not ever synchro summoning for this card, we're just using this card for our copies of our Nadir or our copy of Dogmatica Punishment to get us a spin from the grave. I then play a single copy of Apocalypse. Apocalypse is really good because you can send this card to the grave off of Nadir or Dogmatic Punishment to search out your copy of Schism from the deck, and then use this card in the graveyard plus another monster to be able to fusion summon into a really powerful Shadow monster, like your copy of Winda, which will lock down your opponent from special summoning but once per turn, which is really insane. Also, all your Shadow monsters with your, well, not all of them, but Winda and Apocalypse are both spellcaster type monsters, which is really good for the deck. I then play a single copy of Construct because it's my personal favorite of all of the Shadow monsters. It is a fairy monster, but it's just really good overall, especially if you're dealing with an opponent that's special summoning a bunch of monsters, because if this card is special summoned, then you can send a Shadow card from your deck to the grave, and at the start of the damage step, if this card battles a special summon monster, you can destroy that monster, which is a great effect to be able to deal with your opponent's cards. I then play a single copy of the Water Shadow monster. This card is really good in the deck overall in some matchups because it has the ability, it must be fusion summoned, and neither player can special summon monsters from their hand or graveyard using spell or trap effects, which is a pretty neat effect because it will stop your opponent from ritual summoning altogether, which is absolutely insane. I then play 2 copies of Elder Entity Nist. Elder Entity Nist is a really good Dogmatica Punishment target because it will get us an additional pop when we activate that card. And then finally, a single copy of Titaniclad because it works really well with our copy of Dogmatica Punishment, or our copy of our Nadir, because this card will get us a search of an additional Dogmatica card, which is really good. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's an absolutely insane deck now that we finally have Spellbook of Judgment back in the deck. I have considered one change in the extra deck, which is dropping a single copy of the Water Shadow Fusion for a Garuga, because it will get us a draw off the effect of our Dogmatica Punishment or Nadir, which is pretty good. So that is an option for you guys if you want to go that route as well. So that's it for the deck, guys. This deck is absolutely insane. I'm so glad that we finally have Spellbook of Judgment back, and I really hope that you give this deck a try. So, anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.